I guess so. Today I was at a talk about AI and the UK, and it was all about AI policy basically. So I
Uh-huh.
think the government just launched this new report called the Industrial Strategy Bill or something. It was like
Okay.
a white paper on and basically just opening up new pots of funding for things like innovation and technological innovation. And one of the ideas was that potentially with a view to Brexit and things happening like that, we want to retain the talent that we have and this expertise that we have. So
Yeah.
especially in fields like AI and technology, it seems like the UK is doing reasonably well for its size.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's
maybe,
interesting to me that there has been such an AI community that has sprung up in London,
mm,
and some of that certainly comes from the strength of the universities in the UK, no doubt, but also the sort of its location as a hub in Europe.
mm,
And I heard somebody say once that London's basically just one big airport.
in some ways, yeah, people just stay
In
for a
some
few
ways,
years and then
yeah,
go off to their next destination.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But it's
Mm,
also just a place that
mm,
sort of people get in and out of so easily that you can have it as this sort of central hub for so much different stuff.
mm,
Um, but
mm.
yeah, I don't know how you have an industrial strategy post Brexit.
Mm.
That I hadn't actually read the report. I mean, what was sort of the summary?
Yeah, I haven't read the full report. I just went to this talk, but in
Hmm.
general, it was new fund. I think there's like 750 million or something
Okay.
in that region available for grants and things for research and technology.
Okay.
And then yeah, there's a whole extensive plan. I need to actually read
Yeah.
the commentary to see.
Well, what would be interesting to me
Mm,
is how they
mm,
actually evaluate different
mm,
proposals for sending out this money. Because I've sort of seen. I mean, I spent 5 years living in the Bay Area,
mm,
and have friends who work in VC. Seeing sort of as more and more money and power goes to Silicon Valley and goes to tech companies, and as they get into research, seeing how they decide on what is worth investing in uh, versus a more sort of traditional government-funded academic research.
mm,
I'm not really convinced that the private sector is actually doing it well.
okay.
I think often when it comes to private investment in research or VC investment in sort of deep tech companies, a lot of it feels really trend driven.
Mm,
Often you don't have technical experts actually evaluating these proposals. You just have sort of people getting a quick stream of pitches to them, and nobody knows how to sort of sort out the really like technically meaningful things from
mm,
the crap. Whereas seeing how like in neuroscience, the NIH in the U.S., the National Institute of Health, is this sort of decades old system of study groups and different panels where they get experts together to sort of read and evaluate and basically peer review different grants,
mm,
and it's all done much more in a sort of senior expert driven way.
okay.
And there's
Anything?
like there are trade-offs between them. The more VC-like models sort of saying we don't know what's going to work, but we want we want really revolutionary ideas,
Mm,
and we might not be the technical experts, but we'll just sort of invest broadly and just see who comes back to us with interesting results. I don't. That can work for starting up companies, and it can occasionally lead to more. For instance, in fields like nuclear fusion, you see a lot of ideas that have fallen by the wayside in academic research, getting some lifeblood from some very very deep pocketed funds.
oh, really? Oh.
Some very well.
That's interesting because I always
Yeah.
thought with nuclear research it was like the big government funded projects are the only ones that have any shot.
Most of the money
So,
is in the big government projects,
yeah.
but in certain areas in academic research, either for reasons of, well, in the fusion field specifically, I think a lot of that comes down to shrinking budgets and sort of people becoming more conservative because they have a much smaller pie to fight over.
Mm,
but often just having these very rigorous sort of senior domain expert led panels can often lead to the really crazy proposals getting rejected because it's seen as sort of flaky or not serious.
Right.
And so you fund more serious but also more incremental proposals. And this was a lot of my frustration with sort of academic neuroscience work. So I think it's very rare that you can see the combination done well. But yeah, I'm don't know too much about their industrial strategy. I guess this was what got us on this topic originally.
Yeah.
But
No,
I'm curious, not just what they intend to invest in, but how they intend to decide on the sort of social process of intending
Right.
of deciding on who's worthy or not.
Yeah.
Seems to make such a big difference in what takes off and what doesn't.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, and I think we both have to spend some time and actually read this, because I think
Yeah.
it was just released yesterday. So here's the summary.
Key policies include
Wow.
ideas, raise total research and development, R&D investment to 2.4% of GDP by 2027. Sounds nice. Increase the rate of R&D tax credit to 12%. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe under people. Establish a technical education system that rivals the best in the world. Okay, who can object to that?
Yeah. It all comes down to the details, I think.
Yeah. Invest an additional $406 million in maths, digital and technical. Sure. Create a new national retraining scheme. Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah. I think one of the interesting points that came up in the talk today was this idea of diversity in STEM fields. And so the lady who was giving the talk basically made this argument that if you just have one kind of person designing these algorithms, then you're going to end up building a system that only suits one kind of person. Or do you think that that's a real like, to what extent do you think this is a significant problem that we should all be
God.
with?
I don't work on applications too much, but when it does come to applications, like so many people who work in tech, they live in a bubble. The ideas they have are influenced by the problems they see around them, which are very different from the problems most people have.
Yeah.
And they build tools to suit those problems. When it comes to sort of big tech companies, I think the wave of interest and investment from tech companies in machine learning mostly comes down to having these very, very large online systems with real time, people interacting with them in real time, and you've got these ridiculously enormous streams of data because every time a user clicks on your website, that's 1 bit, or actually many bits, and just suddenly having this instrumented system for gathering data from billions of people that had never existed in this real-time way that had never existed in history before.
Yeah.
Like these are the kinds of problems, but the problems there will be, how do we make the services on our website work better? How do we use this stream of this fire hose of data that we're getting work better? So when people say artificial intelligence, at least in sort of the current wave of excitement, I think the current applications mostly come down to things like this. I think the future applications could be much more, I hate to use this, it's such an incredibly overused word, but I'll say it anyway, disruptive.
Yeah.
The most interesting potential applications to me, and in many ways we're still far away from this, is taking this technology and getting it out of our computers and into the real world.
Yeah.
Because, we sort of started this by talking about, babies staring at screens. I mean, how much time do we spend in the computer's world today?
Yeah.
Getting out of bringing the machines into our world.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk about this a few years ago, I felt, when people were talking about different kinds of user interfaces. And there was a great bit in a Steven Pinker book where he was talking about how incredible the human hand is. Basically, it's like, you can, if you're a mechanical engineer, then the human hand is able to do all these different kinds of movements. It can hold a pencil, it can hold a bucket, it can throw a frisbee, it can, there's all of these incredible things. And yet, like, the main mode of interacting with screens is like a touch screen that you have one finger and you just prod a piece of glass. And it seems like such a shame that that's the primary way of interacting with a computer or a keyboard.